Hey folks, welcome to Plane, which I kind of found when I was sort of desperately searching for something to record on PC, partially because I wanted to test out these lights as fill lights, because I actually bought them for a costume, but I kind of wanted to try them out, and I kind of like it a little bit, because that's sort of a problem I have on camera, is that I always end up with this very dark side. And I've done all sorts of random things. I just don't have a light to put over there. So I tried like other like weird things with like my TV and junk. But I think this is a little nicer, obviously. Anyway, Plane. It's this story that, I mean, I never played it, so let's just find out. Watch the opening. What? Yes. Click here. What? Planes. I'm having a little trouble with the controller. That's the thing. I hated planes. I've always had a fear of flying. There's not a single nice thing about the experience. Airports were confusing. Going through customs was incredibly stressful, and then you're packed into a huge metal vehicle with other extremely unpleasant people, like you're a bunch of sardines. You're expected to believe that a man-made hunk of junk can safely carry you from one country to another. Statistically speaking, it's the safest way to travel. But worst of all is the word. Plane. Plane, plane, plane. See what you did? See what you did? If I were to describe myself in one word, it would be that exact one. Plane. I've never done anything special. I'm the type of person that slides through life without doing anything noticeable. My grades were mediocre, and my old job as a sous chef wasn't anything to brag about. By pure stroke of luck, I got accepted for a job as the head chef in a moderately well-known restaurant. Announcement. Good afternoon. This is the pre-boarding announcement for Flight 265H to Paris. We are now inviting passengers to begin boarding at this time. Please have your boarding pass and passport ready. Thank you. Paris. I had to wonder how I got so lucky. I hauled myself off the bench, made sure to grab my small carry-on bag that held everything I decided to bring with me, and stepped towards the door to what felt like the rest of my life. After this flight, I would have a new start. I could recreate myself, be somebody memorable. I showed the flight attendant my boarding pass, along with a small nod with a smile, and walked down the cramped hallway towards the plane. I hate flying. I took in a deep breath through my nose and took the final step out of the airport and onto the carpeted floor of the aircraft. Next was to search for my seat. Luckily, I was near the front. Just thinking about how this is kind of appropriate, considering I came back from a vacation and all the flying and stuff. I didn't really think about that. I was just like, oh, this sounds vaguely interesting to me. Quick to get in, quick to get out. I made sure to keep the long line of restless people behind me in mind while I hurriedly reached up to unlatch the overhead compartment and attempt to lift my bag into it. After a bit of struggle, I finally managed to slide the bag into place and took my seat. A window seat. Always nice. It was always difficult to decide whether that was a good thing or not. It's a pretty good thing. I dig it. On one hand, I could look out at the clouds and lose myself in them. I didn't have to pay attention to anybody else around me. And on the other hand, the sky was a constant reminder that I was trusting my life to a plane. I looked out the window and let out a short sigh. It had been raining all morning, and there were no signs of letting up even now. Morty! I heard a shuffling and turned to see a woman take the seat beside mine. Is she hot? She let out a loud huff of air that she followed with a loud and brassy laugh. So, this is going to be an interesting flight. I peeked at her through the corner of my eye. If her outfit was any indication, she was a loud person. It almost looked like she was wearing a costume. Maybe she was a cosplayer? She looked over to me and gave me a huge grin. I smiled back, but she quickly turned to the screen of a small device she had been carrying. I wasn't too sure what it was, and it didn't look like any cell phone or computer I'd ever seen before. She glanced around the plane, and as soon as the last person took their sheet, she stood up and walked down the aisle. The entire time, she was staring at her screen. She walked back up the aisle to the washroom at the front of the plane and opened the door. I realized I was staring at her and turned to the window. Even though the weird woman was much more interesting than the asphalt that surrounded the airport, I still managed to entertain myself. The plane was relatively quiet for the amount of people who filled it.
Would you like some peanuts?
I turned my head to look at the woman who offered a small bag of roasted salted nuts. I'm sorry, I'm 5 years old. I couldn't help say nuts. Oh, no, thank you. Yes, please. The woman who was supposed to be sitting beside me graciously grabbed the bag and plunked back into her seat. Plunked. The flight attendant seemed slightly taken aback, but she smiled politely and moved on to the next passengers. I turned my... Oh, she's so cute! I was kind of kidding about this is she hot thing, but she's actually very, very pretty. Oh, I actually rolled a natural 20 when I threw this die on the counter. I didn't notice that. Hey! I turned my attention back to the strangely dressed woman who ripped open the bag of peanuts and dumped them unceremoniously into her mouth. She pulled the tray out from the seat in front of her and leaned on it with her left arm, resting her face in her hand. She turned to look at me. Hey. I didn't expect her to talk to me, so her voice caught me off guard, and I stammered out a quick reply. Hi. What you going to Paris for? She still had peanuts in her mouth. I had to look away to keep myself from making a face. Work. Well, that's boring. I bit my lip and looked back to the window. Letting out a quiet sigh, I tried not to let the words sting too much. Boring. I figured I should at least attempt to keep the conversation going. It could be nice to have somebody to talk to, after all. What about you? Oh? I'm not really. I tried to look at her through the corner of my eye without being too obvious. What does that mean? She shrugged, leaning back while putting her tray away with her knee. One of the cheery flight attendants stepped up to the front of the plane and began her spiel about safety. I wasn't really interested in what she was saying. This wasn't my first time flying. Apparently the woman beside me agreed with my thoughts. She picked a piece of fluff off her glove and let it drip down to the floor. When she noticed I was watching her, she gave me a charming and quite beautiful smile. The flight attendant finished speaking and told us to put our seatbelts on. Within a few more minutes, the plane started moving and my stomach began to flip. The second worst part about planes is lifting off. I almost felt like my stomach was going to turn inside out, and I let out a small groan. Not a fan of flying? Not really. She chuckled and looked around the plane with cheery eyes. You are? Max. And you? I meant... I let out a sigh and my eyebrows knit together. She was strange. I'm Riley. I'm tongue-tied. It's nice to meet you, Riley. Oh, likewise. Another laugh escaped her lips. At least she seemed pleasant enough. I could have been stuck next to somebody much worse. Have you flown before? Yeah, I went on a few trips when I was younger. Nothing too special, just to visit family across the country. It's the worst type of trip. Any vacation that involves family is not a vacation. So this is the longest flight you've been on? By far. I've never flown before, at least not in a plane like this. That caught me off guard, and I almost asked how she was so calm. Though so far she's deflected each question I've tried to ask her. Do you have anybody waiting for you in Paris? No. Traveling alone? That must be exciting for you. I guess, yeah. The decision to go to Paris was easy for me. I had no obligations to hold me back. I lived with my parents, never had a boyfriend, though I didn't really have any regular friends either. I'm pretty excited for my new job, I muttered despite myself. I couldn't help but smile. A smile that didn't escape Max. Have you been to Paris before? Oh yeah, a long time ago. Oh, but you don't look that old. She answered with a laugh and a shake of her head. I'm not. Do you think you're ready for Paris? I thought about it for a second. I mean, probably not. I don't even know how much English they speak there. Parlez-vous en français? Excuse me? She laughed and placed a hand on her stomach. You're going all the way to Paris and you don't speak French? My cheek flushed a soft pink and I bit my lip. I wouldn't worry too much if I were you, but it does kind of suck. Yeah, I guess I'll have to learn. Oh, no, I didn't mean that. I raised an eyebrow questioningly, but she turned her attention back to the strange device. She tapped the screen a few times, fiddling around with it and letting out a satisfied hum. You're safe, then, she muttered to herself, and I knit my eyebrows together. What? She hummed again and looked up to the ceiling. I just meant, well, she bit her lip and actually seemed rather put off for the first time. It just sucks that this plane isn't going to make it. My heart stopped in my chest. I had to force myself to let out a shaky laugh. Excuse me? That really isn't funny. I wish I was joking. She shrugged casually. See my hat? She pointed to the golden H hat that was sewn into the brim of her bright red cap. The golden H, that was sewn. Reading. The H stands for historian. I'm from the future, and I was sent back in time to study this crash. So she was a cosplayer. A completely insane cosplayer. You probably don't believe me. She let out a playful sigh. They never do. Look, Riley, everybody dies in this crash. I gulp. Even though I know she isn't telling the truth, this is just a bad joke. I can't help but feel extremely nervous. This really isn't funny. Historian from the future. Did she think I was stupid? There's no way that's true. Even if it were, why would you bother saying anything? 'Cause I like you. So you decided to scare me. I can take you back to the future with me. We can go back. You don't have to die. The plane shook. I let out a scream and gripped the armrests of my seat tightly. Captain Kirk. Oh, I'm gonna pull out the worst Bill Shatner impersonation. Hold on. Sorry, folks. Just a little bit of turbulence. Everything's fine. He doesn't even sound that bad. That was, like I said, the worst. I was trying to make that as bad as possible. There! Something on the wing! Oh, if he said that, that would have been the best. Nothing to worry about, folks. There's just something on the wing. Max stared at the ceiling of the plane. It looked like she was trying not to laugh. She straightened her face, then let out a small hum and looked me directly in the eye. It's going to happen soon. I have to go. You can come with me. She stands and walks to the washroom in the back of the plane. And Morty quietly closes the door behind her. I stare after her, unable to rip my eyes from the bathroom door. I couldn't decide whether she was an extremely good actress or if she was actually telling a crazy truth. The plane hit turbulence once more and my heart stopped. I took a few deep, shaky breaths. She must be insane. Doesn't hurt to be safe. On account of this is a video game. And what kind of video game would it be if I was just in a plane, met somebody who had no idea what was going on, and then either crashed or landed safely and just had my job in Paris? How about it doesn't hurt to be safe? My hands tightened around the armrests of my chair. Was I really doing this? I can't believe this is happening. I looked at the bathroom door again, and that was all I needed to jump into action. Better safe than sorry, I muttered under my breath and threw the latch open for my luggage.
Miss, you can't.
I'm sorry. I grabbed my bag from the storage and run towards the bathroom. Max, I'm coming with you. As I reached the door, it swung open, and a white-gloved hand grabbed me and pulled me in. Let's do the Scooby-Doo ending. I was enveloped by a blinding white light just as screams erupted from the cockpit. Just in time. For another episode. Hey! Thanks for watching. I hope to catch you next time. Mwah. See ya.